Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 61 of Pocket Edition. Today I am joined by Count Fracula. How are you today, Count?
Well, I'm just great, thank you.
That was almost as chipper as me for once.
Yeah, and that will not last.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a doozy of a subject to discuss today, and a bit of a, almost I guess, a call to action for us being the gamers. But before we jump into that rabbit hole, Count, what have you been up to?
I've started a new save game of Pokemon Heart Gold.
I'm playing Pokemon Yellow, Count, at the moment.
Ah, where am I? I've just got to the second gym. I started with a Cyndaquil. I now have a party of the egg that will hatch into a Togepi, a Quilava, a Mareep, a Bellsprout, a Zubat, and an Onyx, the Onyx that you can trade for early on. There you go.
Doing better than me. Very nice. My story is very similar in Pokemon Yellow. I'm learning that game is very much just walking to other cities and doing battles along the way, and that's like the extent of it. There's not a lot going on. I haven't played it before, so this is my first time playing it, so I'm just kind of discovering this for the first time, because I started with Gold and Silver, so I've gone a backward step in terms of, I guess, the evolution of the mechanics.
There's a lot more going on in Gold and Silver onwards. There's a lot more things happening in the game as you run through it, rather than just nothing.
Well, I mean, I was going to begin with Pokemon Crystal, because I've also got that cart, but as you know, the battery died, so I was like, screw it, Pokemon Yellow still got battery, I'm going to roll with that until I get my replacement battery. I'm having fun though, but it's not one of those games I feel like I could just sit down and play for 5 hours. It's like a small burst type game, because it is very repetitive. But at the same time, it's got a lot of nostalgia attached to it for me as well, because it's close to Gold. So.
I think, as we said in the Pokemon Pocket Edition,
check that out.
Yeah. The first generation of games have not aged brilliantly compared to, the second generation of games have aged much better.
So my goal is I would like to experience one game from every generation, right?
Okay.
And my tactic is I don't want to play all of them. That's ridiculous, right? Because some
what
of them
are
are
you
very
saying?
similar. You know? I'm sorry, Count. So what I'm
Are
telling
you calling me ridiculous?
No, I never said that. What I'm saying is I'm planning on playing all of the I don't know what you call them. The bonus games in a generation, or the revision games, like your yellows,
yes, the
your
definitive
crystals,
ones.
The definitive ones. So that's what I'm planning on doing. Just playing the definitive ones.
Okay, so you've got yellow, crystal, emerald, platinum. Then you run out of definitive editions, so you've got black or white, black 2 or white 2, X or Y, and Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon.
My lord, I might skip some.
Skip Gen 6. It's shit.
Okay, I will absolutely do that, man. Alright, so anyway, that's what I've been doing, that's what you've been doing. Without further ado, let's get into this topic for this episode. As I said, this is a bit of a doozy. The general pitch I gave you, Count, was, is it time for the video game industry to form a union?
Yes.
Obviously.
That's the end of the topic. Yes.
Yes. That is absolutely the general answer and gist of it. Yes, they absolutely do. Obviously, the video game industry is so vast, spreads so many borders, and it's wrapped around the globe. So it's not going to be a case of, one union serves all video game industries in different countries. So it's not just a tick and a flick type deal, unfortunately. It seems like every month or every 2 or 3 months we're hearing something terrible about the working conditions for workers within the video game industry. And this isn't anything new. This isn't like just in the last 12 months. This has been happening for years, like years and years and years now. The working conditions seem to be getting worse, or at least more's coming to the surface. Would you agree with that, Count?
I'm going to say the work conditions were probably that bad anyway. Obviously, I have no basis to say that. That's just conjecture. But yeah, it's things that have come out more recently because of journalists catching onto it and realizing it needs talking about, and just the internet being more prevalent. So well,
I've seen this just in my own retail industry. It's not a case of people just put up with shit anymore. People are tired. People are tired of being squeezed. The world's been squeezing. The capitalist environments we live in have been squeezing harder and harder and harder. Times are getting tougher, and people are just getting fed up. People are saying this about every generation that comes through, that we're less and less tolerant to the squeezing. So I think as time's gone on, people are just getting more vocal and upset about it, which is absolutely fair enough. It shouldn't be a case of, oh, well, I'm a career man, so I'll bend over backwards for my business and be on call out and do 70-hour week. Fuck off. That's ridiculous. Like, work-life balance all the way. But speaking of recent crap that's come out regarding people that work within the industry, I'll just bullet point some off. Count, you probably remember Rockstar employees doing 70-hour work weeks.
100-hour.
Oh, okay. It's been revised to 100-hour work weeks now.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
It was a senior team, but that doesn't make it better. I don't give a shit who it was. That is not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. So there's a example of ludicrous working hours. It's ridiculous. And then we had almost, I'm not sure how this actually wrapped up, Count, you might have a better understanding of this than me, but the telltale dismissals, where they were trying to scrape together severance packages for their employees. They were talking about finishing and financing the game before paying their employees.
In the UK, that is illegal.
Yeah, I mean, I won't comment on that too much. I'm not sure how it actually ended up wrapping up. It kind of fizzled out and went quiet. But the very fact that we're having a discussion about them trying to finance the game before just paying their employees, severances amounts. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks just paid out when you're just dismissed like that. It's ridiculous. So there's another example of the employee not being put first. And then, of course, Count, the reason why we're here talking today, the Bioware saga, which was brought to us by Kotaku.
Yes, my favourite journalist, Jason Schreier, an actually good journalist in the industry.
Absolutely. And I will link that article down below, actually, and give yourself some time to read it. It is literally probably a 30-minute to an hour read, depending on how fast you digest text. But that goes through the last, basically since I think the wrapping up of Dragon Age all the way through Andromeda and Anthem, the development cycles and what those cycles were like for their employees and just the hardship they went through, the hardship varying as well in terms of work hours, what it was doing to their mental health. People were having to quit due to mental health disintegrating, stress leave, just terrible stuff.
Yeah. Incidentally, if you want a condensed version of it without having to read the article, the latest Jimquisition on Jim Sterling's channel covered this. So.
Fantastic.
And
Love
us as well. So.
So, I mean, we don't need to go through any more cases because it's as clear as day that the workers within the industry are quite often treated like shit.
Yeah.
And this is just what we hear. Like, how many times do you enter a job and you sign all these non-disclosures, like, don't talk about the business, don't talk about this. So I would probably almost go as far as saying there's a lot of poor working conditions across many studios, whether it be developer induced situations or publisher induced situations. We don't know for sure.
Well, we had the same situation with Konami a few years ago.
Yeah.
When they ended up under immense public scrutiny after the whole Metal Gear Solid debacle, and it was revealed just how shit a company it was like to work for then. So, it's definitely nothing that's recent. It's it's been going on for years, definitely.
The cracks are just starting to show more and more and more because people, I think, just getting fed up. Why are we here talking about this? What can we possibly do about it? Or why should we do anything about it? You might just buy your $160 game a year and that's it. But beyond just having compassion for people that are in a shit situation, you can bet your ass that this is going to affect the industry long term if people are constantly being churned out and ground down like this mentally and physically. I mean, sure, it might be fine now. So these people might be trapped within the industry with the skill set they have. But what about future generations viewing this track record of the industry? Do you think they're going to want to go into video game development or jump in bed with that? Fuck no. No way.
No, they're going to go to the indie scene.
It will inevitably, eventually affect the industry, I think. So I think it is time that something needs to start happening on a significant level to just look after these workers and talents within this industry. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I did a little bit of digging regarding this today to see if something had already been set up, if something was already happening. And Game Workers Unite. They are a multi-nation organization that's basically trying to get the gears moving on building unions for each country, essentially, organizing workers within each video game industry in each country. The first Game Workers Unite union was actually legitimately formed in the UK last year. So,
Woo! Go us!
Clap, clap. Yeah, fantastic. Good stuff. So it's not easy getting a union up and off the ground, especially when you're being beat down in that manner and everybody's terrified about retaining their jobs.
No.
But I'll just quickly read to you and the audience their little mission statement and who they are.
Okay.
We are an international grassroots movement and organisation dedicated to unionising the game industry. We are game workers interested in organising with everyone who helps make video games. And we mean everyone. If you work at a game company, work on a small indie team, do freelance or contract work, and more, you are a game worker and you deserve the protection and support of your fellow workers by standing together in union. We build our movement through local grassroots organising because we understand that worker power comes from the bottom up. No one can speak for workers better than themselves, and every studio, community, region and country is different and must be organised from within its own unique circumstances. To this end, we found local chapters, aid community building, develop and provide organiser training, work with existing labour unions and organisations, and share resources on an international level. We seek to bring hope and empower those suffering in this industry. So basically everything you'd want from a union, protecting the workers. Just to highlight some of the UK goals count, which have obviously come to fruition now. Ending practice of excessive and unpaid overtime, improving diversity, supporting abused or harassed workers, and finally securing a livable wage for all. And that's just some of their few big pointers. So they've got obviously a lot more in terms of worker rights and protecting them. Yeah, I think this is something though, Count, that when we know somebody in the industry or we hear something, I think we should be pointing at Game Workers Unite, because they've had success in the UK and it would be great to see them have success in other nations and countries.
Definitely. I think a lot of the time, unions are 99% of the time a good thing. They help workers have a voice. It's a collective voice, but it's a voice nonetheless. And it helps them get stuff done. Like a lot of the time, if you're not a unionised workforce and you want something, even if you want it collectively, you're going to find it very difficult to get, because without a union, you have no power over.
There's no weight or
watchdog. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same with teachers in this country. We've not had a strike in about a year and a half, 2 years. They will go on strike. There's 2 separate teacher unions in the country, and they will go on strike if they are not getting something that they want. And that's fair enough, really. Like half the time, teachers are drastically underpaid, or they're not getting the supplies that they need in school because schools are being underfunded. And it's the same, not exactly the same issues, but it's the same sort of mindset that we're going through with unionising people in the games industry. To think that that's anything other than a good thing is baffling to me, to be honest. You look at the people who say that unions are bad things are usually the people who would be negatively affected by a union because they have to treat their workers correctly.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? That's the thing.
Well, I mean, at least in the case of the video game industry, it can't be a bad thing. It can't get any worse than what it is now.
No, it reminds me a lot, actually. I happen to be listening to an audiobook at the moment. It's called Disrupted. It's by a guy called Dan Lyons. He used to work for Forbes and Newsweek, and he got fired from Newsweek, and he started a job at a tech startup doing their blog.
Okay.
And it's basically his experiences with his year at this.
Wow.
And it's so bad. I feel so sorry for him having to go through it. When he first started, when the book first started, I was a bit against him. I was like, it just sounds like he's kind of salty because his bosses are younger than him and young people do things slightly differently. But as he's gone on, his points have got more valid, and I'm just like, oh boy. The tech industry is just as bad as the games industry. It's all hideous. This company that he worked for, it's called HubSpot, and they sell marketing software. And the way they do holidays, for instance, instead of doing you get a fixed amount of holiday per year, they call it you get unlimited holidays. But what that means in practice is when they let you go, they don't have to give you any holiday pay back. It's all those kinds of things. And it's these kind of things that you could get around with a union. But obviously, in the tech industry as well, they don't have a union. And it's ridiculous. Retail workers don't particularly have a union in this country either, and they really ought to.
I have luckily got one, and I tell you what, I've seen it save people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolutely. They actually just recently negotiated for my retail industry a new enterprising bargaining agreement, which got us above the award rate for like hourly pay rates and penalty rates and all that kind of stuff. So worth every pinch of salt here. Absolutely. I mean, and there's cases of unions coming together in other industries as well. So it's not like it's impossible. I believe, I can't remember if it's called the Writing Association that came together in the last few years regarding, remember when Hollywood went on strike, Count?
Oh, yeah. That was like 2008, 2009, I think.
Yeah, I believe a union formed out of that. So
Oh, yeah.
It's not impossible. It's just hard to get up and off the ground because, like you said, when you are a beaten horse, like they're a beaten dog, it's hard to gather and everybody's fearing losing their job. But, you know, it is your legal right to gather and to attempt to form a union. There's nothing illegal about that. It's just, it can get a little bit insidious and dark in terms of what could happen if your employer found out, right?
And in terms of what an employer might do if they find out that you're trying to do something that would quote unquote undermine them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the important distinction to make with Game Workers United is that they're not a union. They're actually an organisation to help the industries across in every country, the video game industries, to just start growing. You know, it's that grassroots to just start encouraging, to offer them support and training to organise, to hopefully form a union. And it's just happens to be the case that in the UK it actually was Game Workers Unite that became the unions. So
yeah,
I think to wrap this video up, Count, unless you've got anything else to add to it.
No, I mean, I think overall, just, you know, if you see things like this, just sort of maybe, even if you're just going on Twitter and getting like hashtags like, I don't know, unionize gamers or unionize, you know,
absolutely.
Just
even just
like
hashtag
that.
These guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to get nasty about it, but if you see something bad, just, you know, it's not about dobbing them into Game Workers United, but it's about just, you know, not every developer probably knows about these guys. And I think just offering support and just pointing everybody, whether you be consumers or people that actually create with the industry, pointing them towards these guys because they're doing a good job. They're helping people get organized. And I think the very least we can do as consumers, even if it's only your one game a year, if you love that one game a year, I think the least we can do is support the creatives in the industry because they do bend over backwards and work in horrible conditions to deliver the experiences that we love. So I think the least we can do is offer them some support by just pointing them in this direction and just saying, you know, we're here for you, we hear you, we hope, and we want to help you. Go check these guys out. You can actually become a member as well. I might do it for the Australian-based guys that actually have an organisation here. So, and that can be, becoming a member can be as simple as just doing what we're doing now, like putting the word out there, spreading it, and you can attend events, all kinds of stuff. So if you are a small-time developer, go check them out. But Count, let's wrap it up.
Yes.
I will leave the link for them down below in the description as well, FYI. But thank you for listening and watching. If you've enjoyed this message and video today, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And check out our channel because there's plenty of other content on there in the form of podcasts. We have an anime, a Dragon Ball podcast, Count's doing the news every week, bringing you all kinds of stories. We've got plenty of stuff, so come and check us out. But until the next episode, guys, have a good one.